Hi, my name is Maham Khalid, and let me tell you a little about who I am and why I do the work I do. For over 15 years, I have worked at the intersection of people, systems, and performance across public sector, private organization, and large-scale community initiatives. I've led multi-million dollar portfolios, built programs from the ground up, and worked with complex environments where results are not optional, they're expected. But what truly defines my work is this: I don't look at people or processes in isolation. I look at the ecosystem they operate in. Because the reality is, success is really about the individual capability alone. Organizations don't fail because they lack talent, they fail because their systems, structures, and environments are not designed to enable that talent to perform or optimize. And individuals don't struggle because they lack potential. They struggle because they are operating without clarity, without alignment, and without an actual pathway that works. That's where my focus has been. At RevoHub, we are not just delivering training, we are building an ecosystem for sustainable success. An ecosystem where learning is aligned to real labor market demand, where individuals are guided through structured pathways, and where organizations can confidently invest in talent knowing it will translate into measurable outcomes. Everything I do is grounded in optimism. How do we take complexity and turn it into clarity? How do we take potential and turn it into performance? And how do we build systems that don't just work once, but continue to deliver value over time? Because at the end of the day, talent creates possibility, but it is strategy, structure, and an ecosystem design that determines whether that possibility ever becomes a true reality. Today, I will talk to you about a concept called the connector. A person who is mastering AI, change, and people in the future of work. Now, what is a connector? Currently the labor market is not just evolving, it is undergoing a structural reset. So traditional pathways between education, skills, and employment are breaking down, while new roles are emerging faster than institutions can respond. What we are seeing is a shift from static careers to dynamic capability building, where adaptability, systems thinking, and the ability to translate knowledge into execution are becoming the true currency of value. Organizations are no longer just hiring for roles. They are investing in individuals who can navigate complexity, integrate technology, and drive outcomes in real time. This is not a moment of disruption alone. It is a moment of redefinition, where those who can align to learning, technology, and execution will shape the future of work. So today, we will talk about understanding the new labor market reality, developing the connector mind skill set, learning practical frameworks on how to optimize your delivery. We'll talk about a simple model to evaluate new tools or initiatives, a step-by-step approach to drive adoption in turns, and how to move from confusion to clarity and then execution. Increase your market value immediately and walk away with an action plan. So are you ready to begin? Okay. So let's talk about number one, why the connector is going to win. Let me start with a simple observation. We are not facing a talent shortage. We are facing a translation failure. Organizations are investing in AI. Leaders are talking about transformation. Employees are being told to adapt. But here's the problem. None of these pieces are actually connected. AI is advancing faster than people can adapt to it. Change is being driven faster than teams can absorb it, and management is still operating with outdated frameworks. So what happens? Great strategies fail, fantastic new tools go unused, and people disengage. Because the future does not belong to the most technical person in the room. It belongs to the person who can connect all three: technology, change, and people. And this is what we call a connector. So it's not just a job title, it's a capability. It's the person in the organization who understands what AI can do, translate it into practical application, and ensures people actually adopt it. These three sit at in different intersections. Number one, AI and technology. Let's go deeper into this. A connector understands tools, is not deeply technical, but enough to know what problem does this tool solve, where does it fit into workflows. They understand that adoption is not automatic. So they really kind of understand change and strategy. They ask, what needs to shift? What resistance will show up? And then lastly, people and performance. They focus on clarity, communication, and behavior change. Because technology doesn't really actually fail, it's usually adoption that fails. And adoption is something we as humans drive. So why the connector will win? AI is not going to replace most people, but people who cannot work with AI and lead through change will be replaced by those who can. Are you one of them? Here's what's happening in organizations right now. AI tools are being purchased, leaders are announcing transformation, teams are significantly overwhelmed. And in this current, landscape that we exist in, there is a huge gap which is growing every day. And this gap is not technical, it's operational and human. The connector is the person that fills that gap. They translate strategy into action, turn tools into workflows, and most importantly, turn confusion into clarity. Because in every high-performing organization, a person such as this is indispensable. Not because they know everything, not because they have domain expertise in every area, but because they are very good at making everything work together. Now, let's talk about the profile of the connector. What are the core skills a connector has? Number one, translation. This is not about translating into a language. You translate not language, but complexity. When leadership says, we are implementing AI, this solution, what you are able to translate for so that everyone understands, all your stakeholder understands is what changes tomorrow and how will this affect how the team does its work. So let's start with the practical exercise. Ask yourself, what is the real problem this tool solves? Your manager comes in and says, okay, we are going to be doing this solution. So what is the one workflow it improves? If you understand that and you're able to answer that, you are able to translate it to the team. And if you cannot answer that, the implementation of that tool will fail. And this is something we are seeing very commonly in most organizations today. Second skill, structure. Okay, you understand what the tool is, what it brings to the table, what's its unique selling proposition. But the challenge sometimes people face is that they resist change, and connector is a person who brings structure so that, people understand the change. The connector creates clear steps, defined expectations, and repeatable systems. So next time when there is a new tool that is implemented, I want you to do these steps. Every initiative that you're implementing, it should be answered these three questions. What are we changing? Who is responsible? And what does success look like in 30 days? Because if you are unable to define this, you don't have a strategy, you just have an idea, a vision. But then how are people going to align to that vision? One of the key things I always say is most big objectives or goals fail because not every stakeholder is, number one, understanding what it is being asked of them, but they also don't align to it. So if you are not able to define those clear steps and expected outcomes and expectations for all of your stakeholders, that implementation will fail. And lastly, activation. So we have a vision, we have alignment. Let's talk about activation. And this is also a key area where most organizations break. You can have the right strategy, the right tools, but if the human element, if people don't move, nothing happens. That's another area where the connector plays a very detrimental role. The connector activates people by simplifying messaging, creating quick wins, and reinforcing behavior. They don't launch big transformations, they launch. So it can be one use case, one team, one measurable outcome, but it is momentum that keeps on going. And then it, of course, accumulates and consolidates over time. So again, 3 things a connector does. Number 1, translation, structure, and activation. Now, this sounds very exciting. The question is, how do you become a connector? And this is something you can implement today. There may not be a role which calls you a connector, but you can start doing these personal strategic outcomes that will lead you towards it. You don't need permission or something a big roadmap to become a connector. You need to simply shift how you operate. Number 1, think in systems. Stop asking, what is my role? Get rid of the ambiguity. Start asking, how does this whole thing work together? Start looking at the bigger picture, the bird eye view. Another thing, own problems, not tasks. Because people spend a lot of time executing tasks and, they just can get caught up in that cycle. Connectors, they solve problems. When something isn't working, they step in and connect the dots. And right now, with the AI implementations and a lot of ambiguity around this in many large organizations, this is a time for you to showcase yourself as a connector. And also, very importantly, build cross-functional fluency. You should be able to speak business, technology, and people. Not perfectly. Like a project manager, you should be knowing enough information so that you can mobilize your teams and get the job done. So, when you talk business, technology, and people, you may not be perfect, but be effective. And then, of course, visibility. It is so important. Do not work quietly. When you do something, track what improved, what changed, what results were driven, because visibility leads to opportunity. The concept of VCP. The more visible you are, the more credible you become, the more profitable you become. In this case, when you are making a change, what impact you've done, what has improved, that will lead to more opportunities. Now, coming to real world application, let me give you a simple example. Let's assume an organization introduces a new AI tool. Most people either ignore it, they try it once, they didn't like it, or they prefer to go back to old habits. As humans, we want comfort. We want the tried and tested way. We do not, all of us are risk takers. Now, this is where a connector can make an impact. Number 1, they identify a use case. How about we use this for reporting? A small change, a small suggestion, something non-threatening. They define a workflow. Do you know this replaces steps 2, 3, 4? Then they start with training a small group. Because again, the small group who is willing and open to the change, they once they understand, this is a few things we will change in our day-to-day processes. Once you get alignment for them, that creates a ripple effect. Tracks the time saved. Most important to remember is anytime a new implementation, a new change comes about, you have to have metrics and data to showcase the difference it made. So very, very importantly, track the time saved, share the results, see what tangible impact it made. Because once you start getting that out there, you get that small group to start implementing it, it can scale. Same tool, but different outcome. This is the power of the connector. So, a takeaway is the future of work will not be defined by tools. It will be defined by people who know how to use them, implement them, and bring others along. The connector. The connector is not a person who is waiting for direction. They create alignment, they create clarity, and they create momentum, most importantly. In a world that is moving faster than ever, that capability becomes your advantage. Because talent creates potential, technology creates possibility. It is ability to connect, structure, and execute that determines who actually moves forward. And this is where the future belongs.